you probably heard about the anchoring effect. It pretty much means you show a number to a person and ask the person about his or her quantitative judgment. And the number being shown can be related, but it can also be unrelated and a random number. And the person will still base the judgment on this seemingly unrelated number. That's why it's called an anchor, because this number anchors the person's judgment. Why is this important for us in pricing? Because prices are more or less quantitative judgments. For example, what is my willingness to pay for this product or service? What is a fair price? And so on. The effect is well documented. So it is strong, powerful, repeatedly shown, and some researchers call it even an old trick in the experimental psychologist's arsenal. Okay, the anchor effect is there, but how long does an anchor last? We will find out today. There are almost countless ways to set an anchor, and there are many judgments and consumer behaviors that you can influence. For example, you can influence customers' willingness to pay, you can influence the number of units customers would buy, or you can influence the overall budget they have set for themselves for their overall shopping trip. We are not covering everything today, but we go into the theory behind the anchoring effect. Why does it actually work? It works for two reasons. The first reason is there's insufficient adjustment hypothesis. So consumers take the number, and when making their judgment, they don't go far enough away from this anchor. So there's kind of a gravitation, and they insufficiently adjust their judgment. And second, there's a selective availability hypothesis. So consumers get an anchor and they search for memories and ideas and thoughts and reasons why the anchor is reasonable. So selective availability, only the thoughts are available that confirm the anchor. In today's study, we look into influences to consumers' willingness to pay. And what the researchers did, we will look into a second. To warm up a bit, what are popular anchors in the retail space? Probably the most popular anchor is the recommended retail price. And it works although customers would believe it is not plausible or realistically high. It still has an influence on customers' judgment of a fair price and given a promotion on the perceived savings they would receive. You can also show prices for other products or place in an offline space more expensive products next to less expensive products. Or when you think about your online shop and you think about the recommendation slider below your main product, if you place there articles of a higher price than the price of the product people looking at on the product page, it has an impact on the money they would spend on products in this category. And there are many other ways how you can set an anchor in the retail space. What did the researchers do? The researchers recruited participants and showed them 6 different products from a wide range of different prices. Then the researchers asked the participants to pull a card out of a stack of numbers between 0 and 99. And this random number served as an anchor. The researchers asked them, are you willing to buy each of these products at the given price that they just randomly pulled? So for those items that they were willing to buy, in the next step, they asked them about their true willingness to pay. So the true willingness to pay is unrelated to the random number they pulled. It should have nothing to do with each other. So they asked them immediately after they decided they would buy the product at a random price, what is their true willingness to pay for this product? Then they split the participants in 2 groups. One group was asked about their willingness to pay again after 4 weeks, and the second group was asked not after 4 weeks, but after 8 weeks. What did they find out? They found that the anchoring effect was strongest right after exposing the participants to the anchor. The anchoring effect dropped to week 1, and then it remained statistically the same between week 1, week 4 and week 8. By the way, how did they measure the anchoring effect? We learned that their anchor and the willingness to pay should not have something to do with each other. So there should be no relationship. And to measure a relationship between two numbers, you measure the correlation between both. And the correlation is positive if both numbers behave into the same direction. So when the anchor is higher, the willingness to pay is higher. And if the anchor is lower, the willingness to pay is lower. In this case, the correlation is positive. So there is a strong anchoring effect that has been measured between the anchor and the willingness to pay. And it lasts for at least 8 weeks. What the researcher did then, they adjusted the experiment a bit and removed the rehearsal after week 1. So you remember, all groups were asked after week 1, what is your willingness to pay? If you remove this rehearsal, the results for week 4 and 8 do not change. Then they ran another experiment for 2 weeks, and they did 2 things in this experiment. The first treatment was they did not ask for the willingness to pay right after the exposure to the anchor. And second, they used multiple anchors. You remember when they pulled a card out of the stack of random numbers, they had the same anchor for all 6 items. In this case, they made them pull 6 random numbers and gave them 6 different anchors for each product, a different anchor. They found out 2 things. First, that asking right after the exposure to the anchor about the willingness to pay is not necessary to bring the anchoring effect to life. And second, with these multiple anchors, the researchers manipulated the ability to memorize the anchors, and they found an explicit memory of the anchor is not necessary for a persistent anchoring effect. This is crazy. You have an anchoring effect that lasts for 8 weeks at least, and you don't need much intervention and reinforcement during these 8 weeks. What does it mean for us? Think strategically about setting anchors. Put yourself into the shoes of your customers. Go with them through their customer journey and the experience, and think about 2 things. What kind of behavior do you want to influence, and what would be a good treatment, quote unquote, or a good anchor to set? Anchors have an immediate impact and a lasting impact, and they are a very good way to nudge customers' behavior. I hope I can leave you with a spark of inspiration today, and if you seek more inspiration on pricing and psychological pricing, join me at pricingnuggets.com. See you there.